Thank you very much. It's good to see a few familiar faces in the room. As Lisa said, we've actually been operating the scheme for a couple of months now. It's good to see a few new faces as well. When I get out to see businesses, we do talk about reducing carbon. There's also a concern that comes through time and time again, and that's reducing costs and how much people spend on their energy use. So today I'm going to talk a bit about what's likely to happen with energy prices and how much you're going to be spending on your energy, and some key legislation changes that will affect that directly. That's backwards. You may not know, but your energy bill and the energy prices that you pay break down into two key areas. One is a section which is the actual wholesale commodity, the wholesale energy that you're purchasing, the gas or the electricity. The majority, you may be surprised to hear, is actually getting that energy to you, be it via the distribution, be it the taxes, be it whatever infrastructure is in place. But moving that commodity to you is the greater part of the cost. What we'll do today is we'll look at both of those, see if we can establish some trends to work out where they're likely to move, and also look at legislation that's going to be affecting that mix. So jumping straight in, the non-commodity costs. These are the bits that are not affected by electricity or gas. This is all of the other stuff lumped together. Now what this slide shows you is the typical breakdown of commodity costs for different sized businesses. So going from the left, this is where the SME sector sits, and this is where most people in this room will have a profile similar to this. Going further to the right, you'll see that these are the larger users of electricity. They have a commitment here, which is to do with the carbon reduction commitment. And then going further to the right, you have industrial and the very heavy users like the producers of steel or the major users. To explain some of the sections and colours there, in the SME section, the black section is to do with the climate change levy. Everybody pays climate change levy if you're in a business. It's on your bill right now, and that is due to change. The green section is a mixture of a number of different levies called the green levies. They will fund things like the feed-in tariff for solar panels. If someone puts a solar panel on their roof, they receive a payment as an incentive to do that, but everybody else will be paying that payment. So that's one of the things that's part of your bill at the moment. The whole blue section here is to do with distribution and the network. There are a number of schemes that have been devised to find out the fairest way to work out how much it costs to get all of the electricity through the transmission lines and all the gas through the pipes to you. They're quite complicated, and they deal with like triads and different points at different times, but that's quite a big section, and on the whole tends to increase, and it is set to increase as usual. The last bit at the bottom is to do with line losses, gas leaks. When you transmit electricity, there's always a loss over line, more if it's over long distances, so that's where that bit comes in. So what's the change? Well, buried in the budget in March, some of you may not have spotted that one of the schemes is to be abolished, and it's to be spread elsewhere. The Chancellor announced that from the 1st of April in 2019, the carbon reduction commitment is to be scrapped in its entirety. It will be replaced by changes to the climate change levy on a revenue neutral basis. So what does revenue neutral basis mean? It means that the Exchequer intends to collect the same amount. That money has to be found from the climate change levy. So if we go back to the screen, these high energy users, and you have to use 6 megawatt hours per annum, 6,000 megawatt hours per annum, that's 6 gigawatt hours per annum to qualify for this sector. So these are large energy users. These are the SMEs over here. The red section is to be scrapped, and it's to be distributed on a revenue neutral basis to the other industries. Industrial, if you see their climate change levy there, there's a tiny little sliver because they're protected from climate change levy, as are the very high energy users. That whole section is therefore going to be divided between the two. Larger companies will pay less, SMEs will pay a lot more. That's going to happen. The tables are out. On the next slide, we'll show you. This is a published table that's in operation right now. It started the 1st of April 2016. It's a 3% increase over 4 years, and then the large increase. Going forward out to 2025, there are ongoing increases that attempt to bring gas into line with electricity. It can get very deep as far as the table is concerned, but this is what it will look like generally on your bills. This is a slide for a real company. It's quite a high energy user. It's got some big numbers there, but your organisation will have exactly the same profile as far as your commitment to the climate change levy is concerned. There's a 4-year slide up, and incidentally, the 4-year slide up was there to allow businesses time to prepare. There's a large increase when it's implemented, and then the push out to 2025 is when the gas is being brought into line with the electricity. So that was the good news on that side. On the commodity costs, commodities, your gas and your electricity prices. What this slide shows, it shows us two things. It shows us the movement of the blue line, which is the oil prices, and its correlation to the year forward gas prices. And there is a direct correlation. So oil prices are intrinsically linked to gas prices and vice versa. It also shows you that moving forward in time over the last few years, it's come down dramatically, and at the moment is at a very low point. This slide shows you electricity prices connected to gas prices. So there's a three-way correlation between oil prices, gas prices, electricity prices, and ultimately they're driven by the oil market. Now we know that the oil market is in a state that it hasn't been in for a long time. This is a very long-term graph showing you from 1995. There's always a general up pressure, and then there was a big drop-off in the global financial crisis, and then the up pressure continued, and there's been a big drop-off recently as the Americans found shale gas, and OPEC decided not to reduce their supply, so there's oversupply, and that's where we are now. This point here in the life cycle is not at the top. It's very much definitely at the bottom, with trends almost universally predicted upwards. So the long-term trend, I mean, this gives you an example. In 2014, mid-2014, Brent crude oil stood at $110 a barrel, and by January of this year, it dropped to $30 a barrel. Today, Brent crude was at $50 a barrel. Now, that's not at rock bottom, and I had to change this slide twice in the preparation this week. It was 48, 49, 49.5, and 50. The bounce back is probably happening now. OPEC have agreed to limit production. So going back to the graph, that can only go one way. And if crude oil goes one way, so will gas and electricity. More good news over. Brexit, I thought I'd put a Brexit slide in just because people are worried about what the implications are. No great implications is the answer. It shows here, I don't know if you can see with the light green on the dark green there, but in the middle, we pay around about the same as everybody else in Europe, or an average price for electricity and gas as they do in the rest of Europe. So inside Europe or outside of Europe, not likely to make a huge difference as far as what we pay. So to summarise, I thought I'd do this score sheet in Ryder Cup fashion with red and blue, with prices going up and in red and prices going down in blue. For those golf fans out there, you probably know how this one ends. Wholesale electricity prices, we've discussed. It can only go one way. It's fundamentally linked to the oil market. The oil market is at rock bottom and the logjam seems to have been released, so is likely to go up. Wholesale gas linked to wholesale electricity, and the oil prices will go one way. Carbon reduction commitment and climate change levy, that's a guarantee. we will be paying more as an SME than we did before. We'll be taking off all of the load from the carbon reduction commitment. Will go on to climate change levy. That's going up. The green levies, in our aspirations to meet our carbon targets, and a colleague will be speaking more about that later on, we have to do more to be greener, and the green levies will provide the funds to do that. So green levies are likely to increase to allow us to build the wind farms and to build the solar farms to meet our green commitments. So green levies will go up. Network transmission is usually a steady increase, but we've got more exotic technologies coming on board now. We've got different types of technologies. So that will require more investment in infrastructure to get the electricity and the gas to us. So unfortunately, that's going to go up as well. That's a clean sweep for up. Pretty conclusive. These are speculative. We are guessing. People have made and lost fortunes speculating oil prices. So some things are speculation. Some things are guaranteed. You've seen that the climate change levy is going to increase, and that will affect you directly. In producing these slides, much of it came from the House of Commons briefing, and I stumbled upon this in their summary, and I think it sums up perfectly why we're here today and why we're in the right place. And it simply says the most reliable way that consumers can reduce their energy bills in the medium and longer term is through energy efficiency improvements. Thank you.